been hearing about the XWT17 impact wrench for several months now, and we couldn't wait to get it. We finally got it in our hands. We're so excited to use it. Now this thing's supposed to have 740 foot-pounds of force from a mid-torque impact wrench. Now this little guy, the XWT14, did really, really well and really impressed us in the testing, but this thing's supposed to blow that out of the water. It is a little bit bigger, but it's definitely by no means as big as their high torque impact. You also have a lot of modes in here. We're going to get to those features here in a moment as well, but let's see, will it actually hit the numbers they claim, which is 520 inch-pounds of force. Wait, inch-pounds? Yeah, actually that's what their box said, but we get it. 520 foot-pounds of force on tightening, and loosening is 740 foot-pounds. So let's see if we can hit those numbers. Let's first take an in-depth look at the features of this, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap it all up. What we have here is the brand new Makita XWT17, and this is their new mid-torque impact wrench. You get many speeds, shows 4 speeds here on the base, but there's many more than that. I'll go over that in just one moment. But for the basics, 1/2-inch anvil. You do get a hog ring style anvil with the XWT17 or friction ring, whatever you want to call that. But you'll also notice that it is also ready for your pin and O-ring. If you have your pin and O-ring sockets, you can use it that way as well. Now the XWT18 is the same impact wrench, but you get a pin detent. So this one is the 17, which is the hog ring or friction ring style anvil. Typical LED here on the front. Talk about another feature about that here in a moment as well. Typical directional lever, as you've seen on everything else, including Makita. So they do a very good job on making sure that you've got good ergonomics when you're holding their tools and when you're using their tools. Variable speed trigger here. Again, a lot of features pertaining to that as well we'll cover in just a moment. And this tool, as far as size goes, is a pretty small tool. It's not tiny by any means, but for a mid-torque, just show you right here, we're at 6.6 inches, almost 6.7 inches, so 6.69 inches for the tip to tail, if you will. As far as height goes, I believe we're like 10.5 inches. Yeah, right at 10.5 inches, just over 10.5 inches there. And then as far as breadth across the widest point, if you will, we are looking at 3.16 inches. So pretty small tool for the amount of power it puts out. So here's what they're claiming. They're claiming 740 foot-pounds of breakaway or loosening torque and 520 foot-pounds of tightening force on this. Now, of course, that's in mode 4, level 4, wide open, yada, yada, yada. Now, let's talk about some of these specific features on here. Before I get to the electronic features, I wanted to show you one other thing that I just noticed here at the base that I forget to mention sometimes about Makita. If you ever pick a tool up or pick one of their big impact wrenches up, you'll notice that flex in the body and make you think, oh, maybe it's broken. It is not broken. That flex is built into there. It's so when it takes a heavy hit, there's something that's going to give there. It's not just going to break the handle. In fact, if you've ever seen any fall tests, in fact, we'll do one here in just one moment, and you can see the flex here in the base when this tool hits, whether it hits on the head or whether it hits on the battery, and you see the flex that gives right here in this flexible unit here at the base of the tool. So it's nice that they build that into the tool. Now let's talk about some of the electronics on here. First thing, the light here. Many people ask sometimes, can you turn the light off on the impact wrench? On Makita, you can. So you see when I pull my trigger, that it turns that light on. Now if I hold this for a little over a second and release, now when I pull the trigger, it does not turn that light on. Again, hold a little over a second, and now it will come back on. It'll last for, it'll burn for 10 seconds after you release the trigger, and then it should go off. And by the way, to engage that or disengage that, basically you pull the trigger and then you hold the button for a second after you release the trigger. You can't do it while the trigger's pulled, but you also have to do it within 10 seconds of releasing the trigger. So you can turn the light on and off. Then you see we have 4 power modes here, but there's really more than that because we have bolt mode or bolt removal and tightening mode. And what that is, if we go into that mode, so you see the blue light comes on here, and then we only really get 3 speeds in that mode. So you can see as we cycle through, we got 1, 2, 3, and it goes back to 1. So we never get number 4 in that mode. And what that's going to do is it's going to, as soon as, let's say 1, as soon as it senses that that nut has stopped turning, then it's going to stop the tool. And then as soon as it feels like that it stopped impacting, backing off, then it's going to stop the tool as well. Now you go into mode 2 on that, and then it says it's like a half a second. It keeps impacting for a half a second and then backing off like 0.2 seconds. And then 3 is just a little more where it's going to hammer a little longer once it tightens and run for a little longer after it loosens. So that's your auto mode, if you will, or they're calling it their bolt mode. So when that blue light is lit up right there, it's in that bolt mode. And you get there by holding this mode button down for a few seconds, and that's going to put it now into this speed mode here. And what that's going to do is now enable this this quick mode, if you will, to where when you barely pull the trigger, it gets up to instant RPMs. So you see I don't have to do much trigger pull at all, and it goes into wide open. So that enables you, if you're doing a lot of nut running, where you're running nuts off a long ways, whatever, and you just need full speed all the time, you don't need a lot of feathering, you can turn that mode off or turn that mode on, and then to turn it off, I can just hold the button down and go that way. Now, if I hit the impact button over here, now I can go into our full speed modes 1 through 4 and get the different power modes that we need. Of course, 4, that's going to be 100% power, and 3 a little less, 2 a little less, and 1 a little less from there. Now let's get a weight on this guy. I think Makita lists a weight without the battery, but we don't use tools without batteries. So let's get a weight here. And so we got pounds and ounces, and let's set it on here. So 5 pounds, 13 ounces, almost 6 pounds. That's with a 6.0 battery. So the smaller the battery you go, probably a little weight savings you're going to have, but that's probably a typical 5060 battery is what you're going to use on this mid-torque for most of the time. So 5 pounds, 13 ounces. And if you want to know grams on that, it's 2,640 grams. So almost a 6-pound tool in your hand. But again, when you're reaching for a mid-torque or a high torque, you're grabbing a beast of a tool that needs to get the work done, so you're not expecting to have a really light tool. I do like the rubber impact nose cone here to keep that nose cone from getting beat up, as well as when you're using it around vehicles, whether it's around a wheel well or expensive wheels itself. Again, keeps you from banging things up. Now what we're going to do the fun stuff. We're going to take this over, put it on our test rig, and see how well this thing does. See if we can actually get it to break 750 foot-pounds. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We are going to test the loosening torque of this impact wrench. 530 foot-pounds of tightening force. I really don't have a torque wrench that's going to go that high for right now. There's ways to test that. Right now, I'm going to focus on the breakaway force or the loosening torque of this impact wrench, of the XWT17. This is how we're going to do this. We are going to tighten these bolts starting at 200 foot-pounds. We're going to go 200, 250, 300, 350, 400, 450, 500 foot-pounds. And so we're going to do all those, and then we'll actually move over and go to these larger nuts and bolts. We've just added these. These are 1.25" fine thread bolts. So then we'll carry on and jump up all the way up to 750 foot-pounds, or at least 700 foot-pounds, to see if we can break those free. We'll go as high as our machinery will actually take us. These smaller nuts and bolts here, these will not take, they'll take up to about 500 foot-pounds. They're really not supposed to take that much, but typically we can get that much stretch out of them, and then we need to move to some larger fasteners. So let's get started. We're going to start at 250 foot-pounds. I think I may have said 250. We're going to start at 200. So 200, 250, 300, 350, 400, 450, 500. All right, we're ready to start at 200 foot-pounds. 200, 250, 300, 350, 400, 450, and 500 foot-pounds. We have them torqued. We're in mode 4. And we have a full 6 amp hour battery. See, we've got all lights lit up right there, and we're in loose in there. We've got some index marks here on our socket so we can see when it breaks free. These first few should be rather quickly. Let's go. Okay, so there's 200, 250, here's 300, and 350. 400, 450, and 500 foot-pounds. Okay, so as we expected, that's kind of taking care of business rather quickly with the XWT17, and it's supposed to be. So we've gone to 500 foot-pounds. Now let's move down and let's start torquing these at 550 and more. Okay, now we're on to the big boys. And so what we're going to start with, we're going to go ahead and start with 500 foot-pounds. Because these are fine threaded fasteners that are a lot bigger, they might react, or they should react just a little bit different than these coarse thread, smaller diameter nuts and bolts. So we're going to start where we left off here with 500 foot-pounds. So we're going to go 550, 600, and 650 foot-pounds. So if we get past those, then we'll move up to the next one. Okay, so here's what we have: 500 foot-pounds, 550, 600, and 650 foot-pounds. Yes, I have a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch adapter on here. We will see if we can't run down a 1/2 inch drive, 1 7/8 inch socket from now on. But for right now, we're running an adapter on here. So it shouldn't rob much torque, but again, we get it. Let's just see what we can break free. 500 foot-pounds on these fine thread large sockets. Again, we're on speed 4 and we still have a full battery. 500 foot-pounds. As we thought, no problem. So 550. No problem there. 600. Got that. Now we're at 650. Got that. So still hit way less than 10 seconds, which is kind of our cap, what we like to let it hit for. So in less than 10 seconds, it broke all those free at 650 foot-pounds. Let's tighten these back up. By the way, let's go to auto mode here, or to bolt mode anyway. So now we're in bolt mode, and we'll go to 1. And we'll watch this. So we're in bolt mode now, and 1. And you see, finger's still on the trigger, and it stopped hitting. So as soon as it starts hitting, and by the way, if I loosen that, it stops as well. Finger's still on the trigger. So again, bolt mode, and then let's go to level 2 in bolt mode. So you see it hit just a little bit longer in level 2, and then in level 3 in bolt mode, again, hits for a little bit longer and then automatically stops. Okay, let's carry on. Okay, 700 is as high as our wrench will actually go, our torque gun will go. So let's do a couple of them at 700 foot-pounds. And why not one more? Okay, so we're at 700 foot-pounds on 3 of these bolts. That's as high as our torque gun will go. I thought it was 750, but it's 700. Let's go into impact mode in 4. And still we have 4 bars on our 6.0 battery. 700 foot-pounds. Maybe we should put it on reverse. So I let it hit that long because I saw it moving. I need to put some index marks on our socket here so you can see that easier. Typically I only let it hit 10 seconds, and at about the 8-9 second mark I started seeing it move. And by the way, on these fine thread fasteners, they're going to give us a truer torque reading on these because it's less of a ramp off for when you're loosening these bolts as well as tightening. So here we go, let's try 700 foot-pounds again. Again, I think it'll like the 6 or 7 second frame, or 6 or 7 seconds. It started loosening, so I let it go ahead and run that off, even though at the 10-second mark it was still loosening. Let's go ahead and hit the last one again. Let's see where our battery's at. We're still at 4 bars, so we're still good. Here we are, 700 foot-pounds once again. Okay, I did not see that one moving, so on the third one at 700 foot-pounds, sounded like it was having a little issue. Doesn't seem to be overheated. That socket is definitely hot, and we are using an adapter. So that third 700 foot-pound bolt hitting 740, I think is what they're claiming. I'm saying we're in the window. Again, without this adapter, very well could be the difference there. Letting it cool down a second could be the difference, but we're still, for a mid-torque tool, we're way surpassing what this thing ought to be doing. So great job on this. Let's see if it'll do it now. Yeah, didn't take much at all. So let it sit just a couple of minutes. The XWT17 definitely hit its numbers. No, we weren't able to break free 740 foot-pounds, but we weren't able to test that. Our torque gun goes up to 700 foot-pounds. We'll have to get a torque multiplier in here and be able to use our fasteners then to go up to 740, 750 and beyond to test that. But again, I think you can get it. That the fact is, it broke 3 of those fasteners free at 700 foot-pounds. So I would say we're definitely in that window, and we had to use that adapter. We'll also try to find a better suited socket. We couldn't find one locally, but we'll have to order one in. That's a 1/2-inch drive for that 1 7/8 inch nut. We have to go that big on those fasteners to be able to handle the power that these things are driving, because like the other bolts that we have on there are 7/8 inch, and the most torque they'll take is like 500 foot-pounds, and that's a grade 8 bolt. So you really can't go any higher on those bolts without breaking them. And we've broken and galled quite a few, so trust us on that one. So anyway, so our new fastener should be able to take it. We just need to get the higher capacity equipment to be able to tighten them that much, and then also be able to test on the tightening force as well. But this got long enough already. We didn't want to go into the tightening side as well. We'll test that another time, as well as typically you're going to use that on the construction side of the business, if you will, driving big lag bolts and that sort of thing. There's rarely anything on a vehicle that you're tightening to 500 foot-pounds. Typically it's 100, 200 foot-pounds, and that's about it. So, you know, definitely no lug nuts that need to be tightened that much. And if you're doing tractor trailers, this is not the wrench for you. But let's talk about what this wrench is good for, and that's probably 95% of your day, that now you can carry a smaller impact rather than carrying that high torque impact. This is a lot easier tool to handle. A lot of modes on this thing for whatever you're wanting to do, from the bolt removal mode to where it automatically stops the rotation, or when you're tightening, it automatically stops tightening. Those are great to have. You still get that feather speed, or that feathered variable speed trigger, so you can dial in the amount of RPMs that you actually want on that, which, by the way, we didn't talk about the speed. So in mode 1, you're going to get 0 to 500 RPMs and 0 to 1,000 impacts per minute. Now in mode 2, you're going to get 0 to 1,200 RPMs and 0 to 1,700 impacts per minute. Mode 3 is going to give you up to 1,900 RPMs and up to 2,400 impacts per minute. And then in max speed, or mode 4, if you will, 2,700 RPMs and up to, or 2,700 impacts per minute and up to 2,200 RPMs. Price on this. Price, you're looking at $239 for the bare tool when this comes out. I do see it advertised online. I'm not sure if the stores are carrying it yet, but check it out for yourself. It's the XWT17. If you want the friction ring or hog ring anvil, if you want the pin D10, it's going to be the XWT18. Again, $239 for the bare tool. Not sure what a kit price is going to be on that yet. Warranty on this is 3 years for the tool and battery. So they're covering the battery and the tool for 3 years. Keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you don't mind, would you hit that like and subscribe button, but only if you like this video. If you didn't like this video, by all means, give us that thumbs down. But would you let us know in the comments why? Have a great day and keep smiling.